All right, good evening, everybody. Setters, welcome. This video is for you. Like I said on Instagram, I was going to get on here and kind of walk you guys through the process of how I go look at schools and figure out whether or not they're running a 5-1 or a 6-2. So I've got my list here. I'm going to go through it. I have not set these up. Obviously, I pulled up the first school that someone gave me and commented. So I pulled that up, but I haven't gone and looked at any of these. So we'll see how everything goes. But when I'm doing this school by school, obviously we want to be on volleyball page, and the first thing that we're going to go do is look at statistics. So when I go try to pull this information, I'm typically just looking at stats, a little bit of the roster, but a lot of the time there's no kind of previous knowledge. Some of these schools on the list, I kind of have a guess about the stats. Some of these might take a little bit longer than others. I'll try to crop out different things. But if we go look at the individual statistics from each player, we need to find the assists category, right? So actually, that's service aces. We want assists. Okay, so I'm going to sort by assists. Don't necessarily always have to do that, but it does make it fairly simple. Okay, so this is Olivet Nazarene. It looks like, based on statistics, that we were potentially running a 5-1. We've got one person with the majority of assists on the team, 8, a little bit less than 8 assists per set, which statistically is a little bit low. Okay, so I'm gonna, because these other numbers are so low, I'm gonna guess a 5-1. There could be some situations in here where maybe they ran a 6-2 with a couple different setters at certain times. And that might be why this number is a little bit low. But when we go look at like sets played, right, or matches played, it looks like the most was 100, 104, 98. This setter only played in 89. And so we do have a few. It looks like there's a few sets that maybe she played only a little bit in, or some sets that she didn't play in. Okay. But if I had to throw an educated guess out there, I would say that Olivet was running a 5-1 most of the season. Okay. That's going to be a pretty decent guess there. All right. So next on the list is Belmont Abbey. They've got both men's and women's volleyball. Obviously, we're going to look at the women's volleyball program. We're going to look at individual statistics, find the sets. And again, not every school is going to let you filter by assists, but on this we can, which is kind of cool. Okay, so again, we've got one setter on this team that looks like they got the majority of the assists for the season. This 7.63, that's going to be the high number, 763 assists for the entire season. It looks like she played in 100 of their matches over the course of the year. So fairly safe bet that they were running a 5-1. Now, the only thing that I would throw in here is this number is pretty high. Okay. Potentially that's a libero, or potentially they ran a 6-2 for a little bit. Again, similar to Olivet, this number is just a little bit low statistically, again, which doesn't mean anything, but it's something to maybe look at. It looks like maybe they tried to run a 6-2. So sometimes what I do is I go, okay, I've got Ella and Emma. Okay, number 1, number 9. I'm going to go look at the roster and just see what position these athletes are. Okay, setter. Okay, so Emma was a setter, and then who was the other one? See, and I can't remember already. I gotta go back. Ella, number 1. Yeah, thought it was number 1. Oh, you know, and this is going to be for this year. So we gotta go back and look at last year's roster. So that's what that is. Okay, so she's a senior setter, and then also Emma set a little bit last year as well. It does look like sometimes you'll have the number 2 kind of assist leader on the team is going to be the libero, and so that was something that I wanted to look at. But it looks like they did potentially try to run a 6-2 at points around at points during the season, and potentially just went to a 5-1 overall. Okay. So I would say Bill and Ivy, maybe 6-2, but chances are pretty good they are going to run a 5-1. Okay. UNCW, the next few are going to be kind of interesting. And this is why context of everything that you're looking at statistically does matter. The next 3 programs all have brand new staffs this year. Okay. And so when you're looking at statistics, so we're looking at UNCW for 2024. They have a brand new coaching staff for the 2025 season. From my understanding and talking with the college coach, they're probably going to run a 5-1 this year. So I don't know what they did last year, but they are probably going to run a 5-1 this year. Again, that could change, right? You have a new staff, they have new athletes, and anything kind of goes. Okay, so fairly cut and dry here. Looking at these 2 numbers with the 2 assist leaders, they've got somewhere around 9 assists per set combined. Fairly straightforward. They both play the same sets, same number of matches. Okay, so you've got UNCW at least last year ran a 6-2 statistically with those two athletes. Okay. Next is App State. Sometimes you go to the roster first just because that's usually the easiest thing, or stats. Okay, so again, App State is another program that will have a new staff this year. Okay, so depending on what they did last year, will determine what they do this year. Same athletes that went in the portal, right? There's all sorts of variables, but again, we can only look at what they did last year. So this is pretty interesting. You've got really, really high number here with this number 4, and then significantly lower number, okay, here with number 3. Obviously, both set, okay, but the assists per set are both pretty high, okay. So there's a couple different things that to determine whether or not they're running a 5-1 or a 6-2. It looks like statistically, if I had to guess, they went back and forth. Probably were trying to run a 5-1 because you have you have 102 sets played and 35 sets played here. Potentially, maybe this setter didn't start all of the matches. Maybe they ran a 6-2 for a couple matches here or there with both of these setters. Just statistically, it looks like this setter, number 3, did run a 5-1 from time to time, but it looks like they bounced back and forth potentially a little bit with leaning on running a 5-1. Now, one of the things that I do whenever there's some discrepancy statistically, and I'm trying to get a better sense of what they were doing over the course of the year, typically what I do, if we can go back to statistics, or actually their schedule from last year, what I try to do is I go look at maybe just the last couple matches over the course of the season and see who the setter was and see what the box score is from those last 2 matches. Okay. So they played in this invite. Let's go to this 5-setter against Georgia State. Let's click on the box score and let's see maybe what we have statistically for App State as far as assists go. Okay, so this Addison assist, she got 54 in the 5-set match. So statistically, it looks like they were running a 5-1 at the end of the season, at least in this match. And again, you can kind of repeat that to see, but I would lean towards App State running a 5-1 last season. Okay, Florida Gulf Coast. Someone wanted to know some stuff about Florida schools because there's quite a few Florida schools on here, and that's totally okay. We need to go stats. I don't want the PDF. Click individual. Again, we can sort by assist and assist per set. Okay. Pretty looks like, again, statistically, we've got a 6-2. Okay. When you have 2 setters. Now, this is a pretty substantial difference. They're not necessarily, I mean, you're talking 2 assists per set between the 2 setters. Sometimes that is just this setter started and this setter didn't, right? And you can see here matches started. Looks like this setter started most of the matches. They started in a specific rotation, which makes sense. And this other setter didn't. And that's the assist per set discrepancy in some ways. But fairly cut and dry. They played the same amount of sets, same amount of matches. And so it looks like you have a 6-2 at Florida Gulf Coast. Again, different coaching staff this upcoming season. So who knows what they'll do there. Let's go look at PBA. So if you're going to type in stats, Palm Beach Atlantic, and relatively new coaching staff. Jeff's in his 2nd year, I believe. Don't want roster. Want stats. There you go. One of the other things you can look at too is sometimes you can just look at conference statistics and go, okay, they had a preseason, got some things going, and then they were, they got their roster kind of tried to run a 6-2, 5-1 with this setter here. We'll go look at the overall stats. Yeah, I mean, pretty similar here as far as assists per set, and you have a little bit of a set discrepancy. So potentially mostly ran a 6-2, went to a 5-1 here and there. Maybe it looks like, again, this is just statistics, right? Without actually going and watching film for the entire year, we can't know all of the info, but we can pretty good guess here that we're running a 6-2. All right. Next is Tampa. Got some D2 programs here as well, which is fun. All right, so this filter by different things is kind of nice. All right, so again, looks like a 6-2 to me. You've got matches played 34-34, assists leaders, and 34, 121, 750 assists, almost 600, 6.1, 4.8. Okay, so 1 point something assist difference per set. Again, potentially you have a starting setter here, and then you kind of go from there. It's definitely interesting. This number is a little bit low. I'm going to go look at the roster from last year and see what position number 5 is, just because I am curious. Libero, yes. Yeah. So there you go. The other 2, again, just to make sure, number 9, number 1, last year's roster. Number 1's a setter. Number 9's a setter. Okay. So it looks like potentially they ran a 6-2 with those two setters. Again, that would be statistically my guess. If someone's more familiar with that program, they can tell me I'm wrong. Okay, next up, Johnson and Wales. And I do not know. Oops. Individual. Okay, looks like a 6-2. Pretty standard here statistically. I would say 6-2. And then I think this person that asked me to do Johnson and Wales wasn't looking for me to do Providence, but I'll do it anyway, just for fun. We have some athletes that are going there. We'll look up what Providence in the Big East is running here. What is that still? There we go. Dun, dun, dun. And it looks like 6-2. Some sort. Maybe back and forth, 5-1. But maybe, again, guessing, maybe you tried running a 5-1 with Miller from time to time, or maybe you put in a couple different setters to run the 6-2. Maybe you had Miller and a couple, the second setter maybe was alternating in and out because you've got like a 3.5 and a 2.3 here, but chances are pretty good. Looks like statistically you've got some sort of 6-2. So that's how we figure that out. That's how we go look and see what the different programs are running, what the different programs are doing. Sometimes it's simple, sometimes it's a little more complicated. Like I was telling you guys, you can look at box scores from different matches and things like that in order to figure that out. If you want me to do this again, send me some more schools. I'll gladly look those up. We can take a look at the statistics. Stats are fun. All right, thanks guys.